Hey, it's Kelly. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm talking about sunscreens that work really well with your makeup because it can be sort of tricky to really nail a sunscreen that doesn't make your makeup slide all over your face. Now, if you don't wear makeup, don't go yet. Don't go yet, because I'm really focusing on sunscreens that are cosmetically elegant, that are not super heavy or greasy on the skin, that have little to no white cast, that don't pill up or ball up on your skin. So even if you don't wear makeup, if you're still looking for your cosmetically elegant sunscreen, I've got some reviews in here that might help you out. So don't go yet. But if you guys are ready to find out what sunscreens I really like to wear with makeup, give the video a big thumbs up and let's get started. All right, so first up, I want to talk about Black Girl Sunscreen Moisturizing Sunscreen Lotion for face and body, and this is SPF 30 with broad spectrum protection. Now, this is a chemical sunscreen, or also known as an organic sunscreen. And those are really my preference when it comes to something that's going to work really well with makeup, because I do find that these are the types of formulas that have very little to no white cast to them. They also tend to have easier to spread textures, just easier all around to work with when you're putting a layer of makeup on top of it. So I do have a few hybrid and mineral suggestions in here, but just so you know, that's generally where I start when I'm looking for a sunscreen that's going to work really well with makeup. Now, the texture here, it's like a kind of lotion type of sunscreen. It's got a really nice silky texture to it. Those of you who do actually like to use your sunscreen in place of a moisturizer, you can 100% do that with this and be really happy. It's not heavy or greasy, but it just has a little bit of moisturization to it, a little creaminess to it that I find very pleasant. I mean, honestly, when I first tried this out, it really reminded me of the Purito Centella sunscreen that's discontinued. I hate to invoke that name in this video, but it actually really reminded me of one of my old favorite sunscreens. So that was kind of a pleasant surprise. So really no white cast on this one. I mean, the brand name is Black Girl Sunscreen, so you're expecting no white cast, and this definitely delivers. No white cast detected on this one at all. Really easy to spread texture, and I really do feel like this absorbs and dries down in a really good amount of time, which is really crucial if you are going to go in for your makeup right after applying sunscreen. You do want to give yourself a wait period. You don't want to go right in with your makeup right away, because like I always say, sunscreen is all about creating a film on your skin. You really need that film to form and fully, kind of go onto the skin. So if your sunscreen's still a little dewy, if it's not totally settled, if you're going in with your makeup, maybe a makeup brush or your sponge or whatever you're doing to apply your base makeup, you're very likely disrupting that film. And that means you're gonna have patchy sunscreen coverage. So give yourself a little bit of a wait time. Go do something else, go make the coffee, go pick out your clothes, go make your lunch, I don't know, whatever you do in the morning, go do something else and then come back and proceed with your makeup. Giving yourself a little bit of that dry and absorb time is going to go a long way with the protection that your sunscreen is giving you. So this is a newer sunscreen for me, but I have been reaching for this so much, particularly when I am wearing a full face of makeup. I'm wearing it today, when I'm wearing a full face of makeup, because it just performs every single time. And this might be my new go-to because it's pretty affordable. It's under $20 for about 3 ounces, and it's available at Target, which I think is great. I don't have to order it online. I can get it at the store, which is helpful when you're running super low on sunscreen and you don't have time 2 to 3 weeks for an order to come in. So I've been this is a real drugstore gem for me. I've really been liking this one. Now, some of you may not be that keen on SPF 30, and I feel you. It's not appropriate for all situations, but I'll tell you, for most situations, and me personally, SPF 30, I'm totally comfortable with that. SPF 50 is also great too, don't get me wrong, and it's definitely something that you might want to choose if you're spending a prolonged amount of time outside, if you're in a high UV area or a high UV season. The reason I bring this up is because we are talking about about what works well with makeup. And I do find, you know, if you ever have problems with white cast, even with chemical sunscreens, you can get a white cast, right? If you ever get white cast, or if you feel like the sunscreen's a little greasy, or maybe sometimes you feel a little itchy in your sunscreen, right? You know what? If you are wearing like an SPF 50 and there is an option to go to like SPF 30 and you're comfortable with that, that might be the way to go, because the higher you go with some of these filters, the bigger chance you're going to get a white cast, the bigger chance you're going to get a greasy, heavier texture, the bigger chance that you might start to feel a little bit more irritation if you do kind of suffer with sensitivities. So sometimes just kind of like going down to SPF 30 for just like basic everyday type of use could be the answer for you. Now, if that's not for you, it's all about comfort, right? If you're like, nope, Kelly, it's got to be SPF 50 or nothing. You know what I mean? It's got to be at least SPF 50. Black Girl has got you covered with their kids sunscreen. This is their moisturizing sunscreen lotion for face and body, kids edition. There's a few differences in the filters here and the percentages, but it's basically the same formula. Now, I did this whole big lead up to this one to tell you this one has a little bit more greasiness to it. It's a little bit heavier because we've got a little bit higher percentages of the filters happening here. I actually still think this works nice with makeup, but you're definitely going to get more of that dewier finish. So if it's between the two and you're looking for a more elegant sunscreen to work under makeup, like I said, both can work. I do think that the original one works a lot better, but if you're definitely somebody who needs a little bit more protection with your sunscreen, then the kids version would be the way to go. All right, next up, I want to talk about a sunscreen that's really good if you're somebody who has oily skin, combination skin, or you're just somebody who notices that your makeup kind of breaks up in the middle of the day. This one is going to be for you. This is the Neutrogena Clear Face SPF 50 sunscreen. Now, the reason why I recommend this for like oily or combination skin is this has a super neutral finish, meaning it's not adding any moisture or richness to your skin. It's not mattifying it either, but it's just not adding to the issue at all. And this is crucial if you are somebody who does experience that your makeup kind of breaks up in the middle of the day, it gets really patchy, it's like worn off in certain areas. Oftentimes that's because our oil is breaking through the makeup and like, you know, like breaking it up. You know, so there's definitely ways that you can avoid that with your makeup application and products, like using a primer is crucial if you're suffering with that issue, right? Definitely there are ways around it with application and products, but that's not going to work as well for you if your sunscreen is overly moisturizing, overly dewy, if it's, you know, like if it's kind of contributing to the issue. You know, your makeup products are only as strong as like the good foundation that they're being put on, right? So that's why I really wanted to recommend this for more oily skin, combination skin, or if you just notice that your makeup kind of slips and slides all over your skin with your sunscreen, you may want to go for something with a little bit more of a neutral finish. So this is also a fully chemical sunscreen. It's SPF 50. They do have an SPF 30 version, and I did notice with the 50 version a very, very, very faint white cast on my skin, which is absolutely not a problem on my particular skin tone if I'm putting makeup over it, right? That's not an issue. But I did kind of want to bring that up because, of course, as you go deeper in skin tones, that's going to become more of an issue. And I think that's where the advice from earlier, if you can downgrade to an SPF 30 for some of your occasions, right, you're going to solve that white cast issue. So there are two different versions here that you can pick from. So let's quickly talk about chemical sunscreens really quickly, because we've just talked about two so far, and these are both from the American drugstore. And as you may know, the chemical sunscreen filters that are being used in America are considered older generation filters. That doesn't necessarily make them bad, but there are some drawbacks to them. They're not always as photo stable, although formulation is king here, right? And sometimes they can irritate sensitive skin. Now, newer generation filters that are being used in Europe, Australia, and Asia, those tend to not be as irritating to the skin. They also tend them to be a lot more photo stable. They're newer generation. They're new and improved. They're just not approved to be used in the American market, not because there's anything wrong with them, but just because we're way behind the times on approving these filters for use, because sunscreens are regulated like drugs. So anyways, I'm kind of going through this to tell you that you may, with sensitive skin, have some issues with chemical sunscreens from the American market that maybe you don't encounter in like the other European and Asian sunscreens. That's definitely my experience. I've had no problems with chemical sunscreens on like the J Beauty and K Beauty side of things, but I sometimes encounter sensitivity issues from American sunscreens, from chemical sunscreens. I can confidently tell you I've not experienced that with either one of the products that I'm recommending. I have not, but I do know that sometimes this happens. Your face is fine with the chemical sunscreen, but your eyes aren't. Like the eye area gets like super sensitive to those older generation filters. Sometimes you just don't want to give up that like elegance though, that lack of white cast, that beautiful spreadability, right? So that's where this next tip comes in for you with sensitive eye areas that still want to use some of these chemical sunscreens. I would say get a sunscreen stick and use that for your eye area. So there's lots of different options on the market. One that I actually have here at home is the Innisfree 8 Soothing Sun Stick. This is a mineral sunscreen stick. So you can actually just use this right on the delicate under eye area and on top of your eyelids, and then just use your other chemical sunscreen on the rest of your face, because sometimes it's just that eye area. It's a little bit more delicate, it's thinner, and it's a little bit more prone to irritation, where the rest of your skin might be absolutely fine. So if that sounds like you, try this tip, especially if sunscreen makes your eyes water or just irritates them. Use a sunscreen stick, probably with mineral filters in it, and that's going to help sidestep some of the eye sensitivity that you might be experiencing without trading off that elegant texture that chemical sunscreens can bring. So I've been talking a lot about no white cast sunscreens, and that's definitely going to be like something you want in your arsenal when it comes to SPF and makeup. But there are sometimes situations where you want to use that white cast to your advantage with your makeup, and that's where the Canmake Mermaid sunscreen comes in. So there's two different versions that I want to talk about, but let's go over the ingredients really quickly because they're pretty much the same between the two. Both of these are considered hybrid sunscreens, meaning they're using both chemical or organic filters and mineral or inorganic filters. So it's using a blend of both. Because these are Japanese beauty products, these are heavily relying on newer generation chemical filters. I think there's one older gen in here, but this is a little bit more photo stable. It's going to have a little bit more, it's going to be a little bit more friendly to sensitive skin like we were talking about before. So version number 1, or clear, doesn't really have a white cast as the name would suggest, but it does have a finish that you can really use to your benefit when it comes to creating a really beautiful glass skin look to your makeup. Now, Canmake is a Japanese makeup company. They don't really make skincare products. So their sunscreen really is geared towards people who like to wear makeup. So this finish is definitely going to give you that dewy, glossy kind of skin. And if you're ever really trying to nail that look with your makeup, a little bit of dewiness, you probably know, yep, your makeup product choices definitely play into it, but a bigger part of that is what you put on underneath your makeup. It's your skincare products and your sunscreen, right? And so this is a really beautiful sunscreen that can double as a gorgeous sort of like foundation for a glass skin dewy look. I think it's a really nice sunscreen to really enhance your makeup finish. Now, version number 2 is also called white. And as the name would suggest, there's a white cast to this one. Definitely a noticeable white cast. In Asian beauty, this is really kind of referred to as a tone up effect because it's not so white that it's just like grays you out. They're actually trying to use this to the advantage of sort of evening out the skin tone. And this can actually be helpful to also add a little extra coverage to your base makeup product or your foundation, because a little bit of that that white cast kind of is going to mask some flaws, right? It might mask some hyperpigmentation or discoloration on your skin. And then an additional layer of like foundation, it can kind of oomph that coverage, so to speak. So you can really, you know, work this to your advantage when you do put makeup on top of it. There is also a little bit of like a pearl essence finish to this. There's a little, I don't want to call it glittery. It's not glittery. It's just a very, very mild shimmer, which is also going to kind of play into that sort of like glass skin, dewy, shiny, radiant kind of skin finish. So these are both really excellent sunscreens to play around with your makeup because you can use the finishes to your advantage, especially if you do like a little bit more of a dewy complexion. And finally, my last sunscreen pick that works super well with makeup. This really gets the gold star for just being a really well-rounded sunscreen that works for pretty much every situation, and that is the Isntree Hyaluronic Acid Watery Sun Gel. So this is a fully chemical sunscreen. This is a Korean brand, so we do have the newer generation filters here. Most of the filters here are the newer generation with a few of the older ones sprinkled in. This is SPF 50, it's PA+4, and it's got a really nice texture to it. The name really suggests something really light, hydrating, and that's what you get with this texture. This has such a really beautiful feeling as you get it onto your skin. It feels hydrating and refreshing. It's got a really good absorb time. Like it dries on your skin very quickly and it just doesn't feel heavy. I would say maybe this adds a touch of dew to the skin, but it's not as moisturizing as the Black Girl sunscreen. It's not really super neutral like the Neutrogena sunscreen, and it certainly doesn't have as much of that like glass skin kind of finish to it like the Canmake sunscreens do. So this is just like a really like well-rounded, like no-brainer kind of choice, you know what I mean, for like just everyday use. This is not a sports sunscreen. It's not really sweat resistant. It's definitely not a swimming sunscreen, but for makeup, it's that perfect layer. Thin, lightweight, breathable, not overly nourishing, not overly matte, no sparkles, you know what I mean? It just works really wonderfully under sunscreen. And if you're trying to get out the door, you know, quickly, that absorb time is crucial, and this one just like never fails me. Now, this is actually the sunscreen that I used in my recent shorts that I did here on YouTube, where I showed you how to reapply your sunscreen over makeup. So definitely, if you're somebody who is wearing sunscreen and wearing makeup but still hasn't figured out how to reapply in the middle of the day, check that short out. I'm gonna link it up here, wherever it goes, and I'll put it in the info box too. It's literally like less than a minute long, and this is the sunscreen that I used in that video. This works perfectly under makeup, over makeup. Like I said, it's a no-brainer choice. This is a really big favorite staple sunscreen in my sunscreen wardrobe. So now it's your turn to tell me what sunscreens work really well for you underneath makeup, or just what's your most favorite cosmetically elegant sunscreen. I'm always looking for new ones, so let me know in the comment box below. If this video was helpful for you, please consider hitting subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications. You know, I release a lot of new content throughout the week, all skincare related, so turn on notifications so you're never out of the loop. I hope you guys are healthy, happy, and safe. I can't wait to see you in the next video, and I can't wait for you to go out and conquer this day. Bye.